Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Data Dispatch. In this crazy market, I can tell you with my experience and time with stocks, I've never seen this amount of volatility just moving trillions of dollars. These swings that are occurring within the market each trading day is absolutely crazy. You never know what the next trading day is going to bring us or what Trump is going to say, what the administration is going to do with this current tariff trade war. And we're just going to be kind of giving you guys updates as it comes out. And Palantir is doing very, very well in the midst of all of this volatility. We're going to be talking about a possible reason why Palantir is looking very good right now with all the craziness that we have going on in the market. And of course, we'll be giving you an update on what is happening with the tariffs, what the market's doing right now. We saw a decrease, so hit that like button. It really helps the algorithm. I can't thank you guys enough. And of course, subscribe. Now, pop it up on the screen here. Let's talk about Palantir. Closed that market close at 88.59, pulling down about 4%. Currently in the overnight hours on Robinhood, down about another $2 at $86. Now, yesterday is when Trump had released the tweet. A lot of you guys probably saw. I wasn't able to make a video, sorry, but everybody probably saw. He called the market bottom by saying, buy, or the local bottom by saying buy the dip, basically. And then a little bit later, we had the announcement of the 90-day pause on the tariffs. Now, that did not, of course, include China, which is what the big fear is right now, since China is one of the biggest trading economies there is. Palantir pushed up to $93 with that market rally that we saw yesterday. Some of that market rally is being taken away in the trading session that we saw today, currently at 86.61, but nonetheless still doing very good. In terms of volume, a lot of volume. At 124 million right now, market cap sitting still at about 200 billion. Palantir is doing very well, kind of consolidating in this mid-80s zone. You can see here popping up to 92, coming back down here to 74, but doing well right here in this mid-80s, literally right at 85. We have a decent amount of consolidation. If Palantir continues to trade sideways and continues to hold these support levels, especially during these extreme volatile times, that will be very good for the stock. Now, what we do have, let's talk about some news. This comes here. Amit had reposted this. A lot of you guys probably know him, big content creator, especially covering Palantir. The Department right here of Justice, another contract seems to be coming for Palantir. The Department of Justice, this Justice Management Division here, tends to award a firm fixed price contract on a one-time sole source basis to Palantir. Great to see here. The continuation contracts is still being released, especially with those close government ties. And this leads into this next article here, talking about this analyst from the Street article, talking about a message on Palantir with this drop. Now, one important thing, remember, that we had yesterday, the 90-day pause for the reciprocal tariffs. We had the announcement of the 125% tariff on Chinese imports, and basically Trump came out today saying, hey, it's actually 145%. So who's going to capitulate? Who's going to cave in first? That is exactly what's happening between the U.S. and China. We'll get into the more of that here in just a moment. Despite, though, the rally and the swings that we've seen in the market, is that the U.S. is Palantir's primary objective, and that Palantir, we know, is working to help bring AI data-driven solutions, especially to the government and military commercial clients. So this stock has gained eightfold over the past year. We know Palantir has done very well. Earnings have been going very well. That is what this is, this article is talking about here. But Palantir would be the least impacted following these tariffs announcements. That's what this quote is saying right here. And I kind of agree that, because with these tariffs, Palantir doesn't do really any big deals with China. I don't think they really get any revenue from China. So who really cares in terms of just looking at this individual stock for the fundamentals of the actual companies? Now, of course, the market volatility, the big things that we see in terms of the political trade war, yes, that could have an impact on Palantir's actual stock price. But the things that are actually occurring in the fundamental business of Palantir, things have not been changing. And the fact that they're probably going to be the least impacted by this this trade war that's occurring. And I could agree with that. What that means is when Palantir comes down in price just due to market volatility, nothing's really changing within Palantir itself. And what that means is, hey, it discounted share prices for people that have been waiting to get in at a cheaper price. We do know that Palantir does trade at a higher valuation. So for people that criticize Palantir for trading at that high valuation, a very lucrative tech stock that we've seen in terms of the AI industry over the past 2 years, then a cheaper price, hey, like Trump said, now's the time to buy the dip. But anyway, talking about that, Palantir, like I said, I'm not too worried about what's going to be happening with it, considering I would agree with this. It's going to be really at least, not impacted that much by the China tariffs. What we have right now is stock futures are coming down a little bit. Market S&P 500 comes down about 4%, NASDAQ about 4.3, probably 4.5% down. You can see in the overnight hours, we're continuing to see some sell-off down about, and the VU, which is the Vanguard index for the S&P 500, is down about another $3 in the overnight hours. Now, stocks are falling back here, kind of pulling back from some of those gains that we saw on Wednesday with the pausing announcement of the reciprocal tariffs. Notable decliners really are Apple and Tesla, which pulled back about 4.2% and 7% respectively. And these losses, like I said, are really accelerating, as I mentioned before, that the cumulative tariff rate on China is actually going to be 145% currently. This consists of the new 125% and on top of the 20% rate in response to the fentanyl crisis. One good thing that, hey, kind of kept our hopes up a little bit is that Trump actually later said in the afternoon today that he is not ruling out an extension on the tariff pause, saying that we'll have to see what happens at the time, looking at this cabinet meeting. So looking at the currently affected tariffs, 145% on all goods from China. He is waiting for China to cave in or at least come to the negotiation table. I like this 90-day pause on all the other countries, and that is because he's going to be allowing time for all these different negotiations for all these countries to happen, which I think was kind of his main goal in the first place, not to put these crazy tariffs, but as a way of basically forcing these different countries to have to come to the negotiation table and for them to make some type of an arrangement to help reduce these tariff percentages. And that's why he is attacking China specifically now, in the fact that he's pausing for all other countries, but now coming at China harder than anybody has really seen before in terms of these tariffs percentages. Investors have really kind of, what this is right here, have sobered up, and uncertainty is really a big issue regarding this 145% rate because it can be changing tomorrow. It's changing. We don't even know what's going to be happening tomorrow. The news is absolutely crazy in terms of the political headlines that come out. You even had the CPI data that came out showing that inflation eased pretty good here to 2.4% in March, lower than expected, and that core inflation is actually at a 4-year low. Now, if you have consumer price inflation easing and expected, doing very well, but the market is still very uncertain about this, what this 145% means, shows you that this is really going to be the main variable on what happens to the market here in the next few days. And one of the biggest concerns personally is Apple. One of the biggest concerns that the market's really having is what's going to be happening with Apple. And the fact that Apple is falling here as clarifying this 145% rate. Currently talking right now where Apple is kind of sitting at in the after hours is down about 189 at 190, down about 4% on the day. One of the big questions is what's going to be happening to Apple. We've seen the administration say, hey, can they bring the iPhone manufacturing production to America? Of course, that's a lot of mumble jumble, just types of talks that we've seen what's actually going to be happening. But one of the big reasons why this is not the best thing is because a lot of these iPhones being produced in China and how Apple is going to be affected. This is one of the biggest stocks, kind of flips with nvda. as the biggest stock that there is in terms of market capitalization right now at 2.86 trillion. So it does have a heavy weights on the S&P, on the Nasdaq especially. So if we see big, large reductions on Apple just due to the uncertainty with the tariff on China, that is where we can see a lot of forward, downward selling pressure on the market. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Looking at other things, Bitcoin quickly, we don't follow it that much, but just looking in terms of crypto, how it's reacting, doing at 80,000, being very resilient in this market, along with Palantir being resilient. AMD back down here to 88. It had popped up to 95, but back down to 88. Tempest at 40. Big Bear dropping down here. Ham's dropping down here. Things that we've been kind of talking about. Basically, a lot of these stocks are kind of back to before the announcement of the 90-day tariff and where that rally was. So it's about a half for you guys. Peace out, take care, and I'll catch you guys later.